Hello, everyone. This is Nancy Reyes with For Your Canine.
And Joanne Soike with For Better, For Worse.
All right, if you're out there, let us know so we can. Today we're going to talk about knowing if your dog is ready to compete, and this is not specific to any sport, but any dog sport. So, for example, agility, nose work, barn hunt, whatever. It's the basics are the same. So we're gonna chat about that. So let us know you're there, so we can. Hey, Melanie, long time no see. It's been a long time. What, 2 or 3 hours? Linda, hello. Karen, Jodine. Hi, Jodine. Long time no see you too.
Hi, Ronnie.
I know. Wow. You guys, we miss you guys. Haven't seen you in a few hours. All right. Hi, Donna. We missed you this weekend.
Hope you're feeling better.
Yes. Anyway, hey, Lisa. So today we're talking about how do you know if your dog is really ready to compete? Again, it's not sport specific. It's just in general, right? Um, Rhoda, hello. Nancy, yeah, see you in a few weeks for sure. So how do you know if your dog is ready to compete? The reason Joanne actually came up with the topic for today. So why did you kind of come up with it, Joanne?
Oh well, um, it's been kind of a really heavy trial. 2 months here, right? Month or two, right? I've been judging a lot. I've been competing a lot, and seeing some teams and some dogs out there, it really made me think back to starting my dog too soon. Um, and it was a really hard thing, right? I didn't have any dogs at the time, and I missed competing. I missed my friends. I missed hanging out. I missed the social aspect of it. I missed being able to work a dog. And I put my guy out there way too soon, and I suffered for it. And it took me, well, I would say us. Nancy, kindly went, do you notice what's happening there? And I mean, I would say, I don't know what he said, 16, 18 months
Yeah.
to bring him back from being slow, being not confident in doing this. And I almost sort of messed up our game for a long future. And thankfully, being friends with Nancy and being a trainer myself brought him back. But I just wanted to put this topic really out there. Not to tell you, don't trial and try with your dog, but really give you a little more understanding of when we throw our dogs out there time and time again, kind of how that can hurt your relationship and also the future of whatever game that you're playing.
Right. Because a lot of times, and not all instructors, it's difficult as an instructor when a student comes to you and says, "Are you ready to compete?" When you know the answer is no. How to nicely put that? I don't really hesitate to say no, but I also back it up with why that is. Why not? And usually, a lot of times there's little things that we forget. So for tonight's topic, we really wanted to kind of make you aware before you go out there and decide you wanted to get out there and compete, and some of the repercussions for it. Ultimately, the decision to trial your dogs, whether it's agility or whatever it is, it's ultimately yours. But it's what we really want you to kind of take away is really think about why you want to compete at this time, and maybe, are you really ready? Really think about that. So, and if the answer is still yes, then by all means. A lot of our students do ask, they ask me all the time, are we ready or not? And I am very comfortable saying yes or no. And sometimes the dog is ready and the handler is not. Amen, Aaron. And we're
That's true.
talk about that. So, so basically, we wanted to give you some food for thought. And Joanne, yes, Joanne, she sent me a video when Noah was a very young puppy, and I saw it and I said, "Oh, I see, I see many problems with this start. So anyway, now is amazing. He actually got two detective legs this weekend, which was not an easy task. And he's also got his NW. So this year has been a great year for him. But it was a lot of work on Joanne's part to get him back. And it's so much easier to train it the right way than to rush it, right? Because you always have to go back and do it. How about the pressure you put your dogs under? Yes. Well, that's the main reason. That's why Joanne kind of brought it up. When you go to compete and your dog really isn't ready, the pressure you put on the dog can really make him dislike the game. And after a while, the dog's like, oh, we're doing this again. And it's no fun for the dog. And nose work is so much fun for the dog. So yes, and that's kind of why Joanne brought it up. And we see it. I see it too as a CO. Sometimes people aren't quite ready and they get disappointed, and it is still pressure. Even though sometimes we decide, oh, I think I'm going to try and see, it's still pressure for the dog. As long as you know and you can recover your dog, that's great. But just be mindful of what you're doing and how you're doing it and what the process is to make sure your dog is. You support the dog all the way.
Right. And I think everything that we're going to talk about tonight, we're not saying don't ever try it until somebody tells you you're ready, and don't ever, right? Because sometimes you do want to like enter something. There's a big trial coming up. Maybe do one or two things. If you feel like I don't know where we're at, and my instructor really, or I don't trust what they're saying, I really want to see where we're at. It's fine to kind of put them out there once in a while, but that's where you're going to see, right? When you're holding yourself to the standard of the class, where do you come in?
Right. And this is in general terms. And Joanne and I had a very long conversation about this earlier today. Your instructor should be supporting you, right? They should be able to tell you why you shouldn't compete. There should be some good reasons. Just saying you're not ready is not good enough. You need to hold them to the fire. Why am I not ready? What am I missing? What am I lacking? So that you can either say, okay, we'll work on it. But just saying that you're not ready doesn't cut it. Why? You need a why. Why is it? I am a why person. Why can't I? So if your instructor can't give you that why, then there's a problem there, right? And the other thing is, and being able to support you through the process, whatever decision that is. You need to know why that your instructor feels that you're not ready. It's not just, oh, you're not ready. Well, why not? Tell me why. When somebody asks me and they're not ready, I can very quickly give them specific reasons why not. I said, but if you want to do it, this is what I would recommend. That and like Joanne said, do one or two runs, do just certain things to kind of break in easy, and then eventually progress from there. So that's and Ronnie, you're right, moving up levels too, because it's in AKC and UKC you can move through novice and the first couple of levels very, very quickly. And then when you get up to the higher levels, and we see that in NACSW too, people get their 1 or their 2 right away, and then they get to 3, and it's not great.
Yeah, and I think too that's partly why I see this more in nose work than other sports, right? You might trial too soon in, say, obedience or agility, but it's such a prolonged time frame of performance, right? If your dog is not ready, you're not ready, or the pressure's too great, they fold, right? They can't make it through 3 minutes, or a 60-second agility run. So you don't qualify and you don't continue to move up, and hopefully you stop spending money on not qualifying over and over again, and you go back and you sort of train some of those fundamentals.
Right. We're going to quickly go over some of the things we think, and this is just our opinion, that you need to look for as you're getting ready to compete. Again, in any venue, barn hunt and everything else, okay? And in nose work and agility. So the big thing is, how good is your foundation, right? How good really is it? Have you tested it? What is the financial? Do you have fluency in your skills? For example, in agility, do you have really good weave pulls before you take them out there? And like now that there's CPE that doesn't require weave pulls, can you get through a course with your young dog, and maybe while you're working on getting the weave pulls squared away? How fluent are you in your skill set, right? How good are they at taking the jumps? How good are they at the teeter? How good are they? How comfortable are they? How fluid are they in that? Same with nose work, odor, right? How odor obedient are they? Do they go right to odor, or do they just kind of be like, okay, we'll see about getting there, right? Barn hunt. Will they find the rat but can't do a climb or can't do a tunnel, or gets worried about the environment, which we'll talk about. So how fluid are the skills necessary for that sport? And I have a list of skills that I think dogs should have before starting a nose work, and we had one for agility too. And once they're pretty fluent on it, then you can start putting it together and maybe trialing. Or like I said with agility, a lot of times the contact equipment's okay, jumps are okay, but the weaves take a little while. So then you can do CPE, kind of get some courses going, and then really think about trying while you're working the weave poles and seeing how they handle that competition.
Right. And if you look at any sport, the people who have done it over a long period of time and are real consistent high level performers, go ask them, the people in your sport, what is it that you want your dog to have before you step into the ring? I know I was an agility person and I did it for fun, and I really didn't care if I ever qualified because my dog had a blast, just even if she had zoomies out there, right? And I didn't mind looking like an idiot. So I was not that person. We did not qualify often, and it was okay. I had a blast. But you go and look at some of those people who are really top level performers. They would never think about putting their dog into a ring before they had real consistent. You're hitting those weave pulls 19 out of every 20 times, and you have your 2-on-2 off, or you're running contacts, or you have all of these things. So if you know some of those people, or even if you don't, it's a good way to strike up a conversation. Find the people in your sport who you see consistently kind of at the top of their game and ask them, what do you think is important?
Right. And sometimes I'll be honest, some of those top level, and we've had this conversation before, some of those top level competitors can't articulate what they need. They just do it, right? So just be thoughtful about that. But for different sports, they require different things. A lot of in agility is, will the dog stay with you? That's number one. Will the dog, does the dog understand what jumping is? Does the dog understand contact equipment? Does the dog understand the weave pulls? Does the dog understand following you in a sequence? Can the dog turn as you ask them to turn? Right? All of those things. Can your dog wrap a jump? There's a lot of other skills that are required.
Right.
But at the beginning levels, comfortable or being comfortable with the equipment is like number one, really. And being able to stay with the handler is number, well, 1, 2, it's kind of a toss up there in agility. And in nose work, is your dog odor obedient? Is your dog understand what he's supposed to be doing? Is your dog independent? Can your dog go search without you? Does you have to be at Connect? Search on leash, off leash, and there's a bunch of other stuff. And in obedience and agility. In obedience, can your dog sustain a sequence of things that you're asking him without reinforcement? Right? That's a big deal, right? And you train those separately and then put them all together, which is what agility and obedience are. Barn hunt and nose work are a little more. The dogs are naturally, they look for odor. So people think, especially with those scent sports, that the dogs just know how to smell it. That's it. That's all they need. And there's so much more to it, right?
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So that's a big one, building a good foundation. Training is another. How much do you train? How long? And again, skills fluency. How good are they? How strong are they? And that does not mean that your dog has to be great at every single skill that there is, but you need to know where they are in that particular thing. Like, for example, like if you know your dog, I go back to weave pulls because that was the most challenging thing for me when I was doing agility. My Bandit didn't do weave pulls so well. So we worked on we did CPE where there wasn't required early on, so that we can kind of get our teamwork together while we worked on those weave pulls to get better at those before we went into the AKC, and we always struggled because our foundation was not good. So that was always a struggle for our whole. I think we did agility for 10 years, and we struggled with the weave pulls all the time. So
Yep. That was my first agility dog as well. And it finally came halfway through our career. I was like, we can never cue. So I would have to use the training ring. She could do it, but I would have to use that training ring where we would eat some entry costs, where when we would get perfect weave pulls, I would run out of the ring and have a party. Because what's the point in continuing to pay money if that particular skill doesn't work? I mean,
right.
if you want to cue eventually.
Right. Right. And so training, how much do you train? Every dog, and it depends, right? Some dogs you can train a lot, they're happy to work, and other dogs not so much. So how do you do the training matters a lot. You need to keep the game, whatever game you're playing for the dog, fun. And if
Right.
you don't, you need to take a step back. So how much and how long? So you could probably train, some dogs you can train 3 times a day for 5 minutes and they're great. Other dogs you can train for an hour once a day. So it really depends. And skills fluency will be dependent on each dog. So some dogs are going to catch it right away or quicker. Other dogs are going to take a bit longer. And there's not a good or a bad. It's just that's who your dog is. So keeping track of those things is really important.
Right. And it's sort of always important to ask your dog that question of how they always feel about it, right? Because they might be willing to train a whole lot at the lower level where things are easy. And, as you're moving up in levels, as things get harder, you're not increasing my payment, or you're not bringing the goods to me, and I'm working way harder for you. So, if you're having to coax your dog off the couch to come and play the game with you, you might want to think about how much I'm training, or how long I'm training, or my reinforcement.
Right. Right. So the other thing which we see a lot is behavior problems. If you have a dog that's reactive or nervous, especially the nervous dogs, putting them in competition too soon is really detrimental because you're already dealing with a fragile being that's already stressed out, and you're adding more pressure. That never goes well. And these sports are designed to help build your dog's confidence. So if you have a reactive dog or a worry dog, take care of that behavior issue away from the sport as much as you can. And then you still can train the sport, but also work the behavior problem, especially a dog that's very environmentally sensitive. That becomes a big issue, especially when you're asking them to go out in the world in different places and be able to deal with the environment and do a job for you. It's a lot
Right.
to.
And I will say though, right, nose work, and I mean the other sports as well. I've never seen anything work as fast as nose work, in helping a dog through some of that shy, fearful, confidence type of issue. However, the environment matters. You can build a lot of confidence doing things in very familiar spaces, your house, your driveway, those types of things, as opposed to taking it on the road for a trial.
Right. And we recommend if you have a dog that's worried, you build those skills at home and then take them elsewhere and do a quick, easy, short search or whatever, or take them to another training facility and drop in a class or something if you're doing agility, and see how your dog handles that before you put him in a trial. Right. In agility back in the day, we used to have a lot of fun matches, run throughs all the time. So people would come from all over to get the dogs in different environments and different spaces. I don't now. It's not that doesn't happen as often. So and it shows when you see trials, right? Or people don't trial as much or don't have too much fun, and people drop out, which is really sad because dog sports is just a great way to build that human animal bond. So not allowing them to enjoy it as much as we do is really sad.
Right. And when we talk behavior issues too, don't think that it's the super reactive dog or the super shy fearful with the tail tucked, right? Some of the other behavior things that dogs deal with. I mean, having had bird dogs myself, my first Vizsla could not work in the presence of birds, right? And so that was something I'm like, we gotta take that on the road and work it. And so when Nancy says set an easy hide, I literally had a hide 2 steps nose level in front of her face. That's how, much I wanted to work the birds, and she struggled. She couldn't even find that. She did, and that's how we started to work it. But it can be those distracting things too. Noises take your dog off task. I'm a little, I notice people. So maybe you go to a park and you set a really super simple hide, right? Things like that. So when we talk behavior, don't think it means
Problem.
yeah, all the big problems. It does as well, but that's not the only thing we're talking about.
Right. Well, for example, I have a very friendly shepherd. He's more golden than shepherd, but whatever. He just has the wrong outfit on. He loves people, and he finds them so reinforcing and so rewarding. So finally, I had to teach him he can go visit the people after he does his job. And eventually he just got much better at it. And now it's not such a big deal. I didn't change or take away his love for people, because I want that, because he's a big horse and I want him to be nice. But I really wanted him to focus on the task. And early on, he had a lot of trouble with that. He would like, I want to go visit people and get pet and all that. So in class, when we do train, he gets to work, search, and then come out and visit folks. And every once in a while, he'll default, if it gets too hard, he'll default to wanting to go visit. So, but that's what I mean about behavior issues. Just be aware. Or if they like other dogs too much, reactivity is not the only thing. The dog could just love other dogs, and if they see other dogs, they get so excited and they can't work. So those are everything. Count everything, right?
Right. And so Nancy just made a really, really nice point there that I just want to touch on, right? If it's too hard, even in his familiar training space, he will resort to going to visit other people, right? So imagine you haven't worked that in your own classes and you take that to a trial. So now not only is my dog not finding odor or not able to work in the sport that I'm asking, but I'm also taking away his love of people, like she said. So it's a double whammy if I haven't worked that problem prior to putting the stress of a trial on him.
Right. And Deb, this is a really great question. Deb asked, would I take the same classes for competing, even if you're doing it for fun? Yes. And I'm going to tell you from my own experience. When I started agility, I was not even remotely thinking I was going to compete in agility. That wasn't even a thought in my head. I just had a really obnoxious dog that I needed to give him something to do. And all I wanted to do was give him a job. Well, I was in a fun agility class. And then he was pretty good at it. He really enjoyed it. And I decided, maybe I'll give this a try. And I had to go back and do a lot of retraining. So Deb, in my classes, all our nosework classes are the same. We have competitive people and people who just want to have a good time. I do teach the majority of the competitive competition level people. However, people come. We had one of our students that started agility, came to agility class for 10 years. Once a week, came to class, agility class, worked really hard. They did a great job. She never competed. She just, that one day a week was their jam and was their place to be. And it was really wonderful. So yes, we don't differentiate if you're not serious to serious. I would train, however, train it to the best. Whether you compete or not, doesn't matter. You just want to have a good, you're going to have a good time. But if you decide down the road that might be something you're interested in, or not, like I said, I never even thought of even competing. I didn't even realize it was a thing. And then, so I learned a lesson, and my business design is that for all sports, whether they want to compete or not, they're training as if they're going to compete. And if they don't, it's okay. Just keep coming, have a good time, enjoy the dogs, no big problem. But don't fall into that, because you don't know what things might change a year from now, 6 months. Here we are now. Who would have thought last year at this time that we would be in the situation that the world is in? Never think. So anything can happen. So always, do the competition class. It's okay. Enjoy it. Do your best. And if you just want to have a good time, just have a good time. Don't sweat it. Have fun with that. Mary Laura, do you think training on the road, fun matches can ever recreate? No, It doesn't, nothing, it's really difficult to recreate a real trial. Agility is agility run throughs are the closest that you can pretty much, yeah, that's a easy, you can recreate that. Obedience fun matches as well. The difference is you're not as nervous, but it's good giving the dogs the skill of going to a different place and asking them to do whatever your sport is.
Mm. And I don't know that obedience fun matches can recreate an obedience trail, because I don't know if you've walked into an obedience trail lately, but
Well,
the tension is just hanging in the air.
well, it hangs in the air at the fun matches too.
I know, but to a different level, right?
Yes.
So, I mean, it's good practice. So don't not do it, right? Because it's really great training to go on the road and send people, and take yourself there and do all the different exercises. But no, I agree with Nance. It's never going to be quite the same. And Aaron has a good point there. You're never, even if you trial for fun, you don't care if you place, you don't care. You still, it's different. It's really hard as a human to be as relaxed as you are in a training session as you are when you walk into the trial.
Yeah. But for the dog, but at least you're getting out and about in a different environment with a little bit of, because even if you can't really recreate it as much, but you're still a little nervous going to a fun match, or I know I always was. Not quite as nervous as a trial, but I was still a little anxious about going. So for sure. That's a possibility too.
Yeah.
Um, all right, and this is what we're talking about, various environments. Making sure your dog gets out and about to different places before you go into a trial. So if you've been, and I know for some people they can't help it. They're training at home, working at home, and then they go to a trial, and then the dog's like, "Yeah, I'm so not going to do that." So, and I know sometimes we don't. Some people don't have a choice. I mean, they don't have a trainer nearby. They don't have a facility, so it's hard. I get it, but try to go to, even if you have to go, even once a month, drive a little bit to go and train somewhere else, or do a little fun match or something is totally worth it.
Yeah, and
Depending.
even if you don't have a big, hour or two to spend, if you have something around town that your dog's never been to, maybe you can find a pond that has geese nearby, or the dog parks off in the distance with dogs running around. Or I know one of my students really, really struggled the first time that she trialed nose work at Nancy's doing exteriors, because 294 is back there. It's so loud with traffic. Um, we don't have that kind of interstate here, like next to a building. So the dog was kind of like, what is happening? So it was one of those, right? We have to recreate that somehow to help that dog be more comfortable in that environment.
Right. Noise is a big thing that we don't think about. Or we've had folks that come from pretty far away to our training facility, and they live out in the country, and they come to for your canine, and it's like, oh my god, it's so noisy, so busy, and yeah, being out in the back, it's really, really, so it's a difficult. It's a setup. That's why some people come for our events, so that the dogs get used to being in a different place that's a little busier or different. So trying to get them out and about as much as you can before you put them in trials is really helpful, right? And again, we don't see as many agility run throughs as we used to back in the day, because we used to have them all the time, and we just haven't had the chance to do those as much anymore, because it was classes and all that. So those are all things you need to check it off. And then at a trial, if it happens that you're in a facility or a venue that the environment is going to be a problem for your dog, try to support your dog and just know that, okay, we have to work this environment, instead of getting all upset about it. It's like, it's no different than us going to a different country and we don't understand. It's very stressful. So we have to, we need some support and encouragement to get through it and do better, right? And we don't. A lot of times people get very mad at the dog. And it's like, so they're mad at the dog because the dog is stressed in whatever the environment is.
Yeah, I probably shouldn't say this on a live event, but boy, I wish there was a fault on the score sheet for handlers getting down on their dogs. I can't tell you how many stressed out dogs that I've seen, and they're not working, and they eventually just sort of look at their owner, and their owner says alert, and you have to say, no, I'm sorry. And they're like, "Oh, Fido, gosh, see, why do you always lie to me?" And it's the dog's like, "Oh God, I didn't mean to." So it's just it's so sad to watch, right? Because it's those are some of the things. The reason why I really wanted this to be out there, because imagine if the first time in first grade you tried to write a sentence and your teacher was like, "No, you suck. I can't believe why would you even turn this in?" Right? How would you learn in that environment? I mean, it's not welcoming, and so you would really probably hate spelling. You would probably hate English, and you'd learn to hate the game. So think about that every time you get down on your dog for something that maybe they weren't ready for.
Right. Debbie, we're working on getting that wall up.
Is that the soundproof wall back there? Nice.
Somebody recommended we do that. I'm like, get right on that.
Oh,
And that was a serious suggestion too, by the way. Rodeo's trialing for the first time in 3 weeks. Why I opted to wait for people around. Don't know when the first search he did with additional people in the room. He was overwhelmed for he more comfortable more than he did. People saying, I think that's something people. Yep, exactly right.
exactly.
The environment, yeah, people, and that's what I mean. It's something to consider, and that's why we always recommend people to volunteer. It's so helpful. Whether it's like we had a couple of our students that were trialing this weekend came out and helped out because they can really get to see and get a feel for it, and you feel a lot better when you do go to trial, when you see what to expect, right? And then you can kind of decide, okay, yes, my dog can handle that or not, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
and the volunteering stuff, sometimes it'll be something you never even thought of. Um,
right,
I know my dog, my newer dog, we went to a trial last month and the interiors were like on tile surfaces. Now, she's always had a little bit with floors, but never that bad. She would not search. And I was like, huh, I was not expecting that level. So wow, I'm gonna really make sure where I trial her in interiors before I train it. So if I know that there's a place that's gonna have tile floors, I'm not putting her there until I'm sure it doesn't bother her anymore.
right, right. And that's what it is. You have to kind of see how your dog handles different things, right? Handler experience is another. Um, as instructors, one of the things we really have to do is support our brand new people that are starting to trial because it is very stressful anyway being in a trial, and having not done it, it's very uh, it's very difficult for the handlers, and that extra pressure is really not great for the dog. So as those of you who instruct, it is really important that you really prepare your students for what's going to happen, and kind of coach them through it so that they know what to expect, at least even if it's intellectually. They're like, okay, I knew this was going to be here, that was going to be here, instead of going over there and just surprise. this is this is what it is. So you want to make sure your instructor gives you all that information. And if they don't, ask. They should be telling you, like, this is what happens. This is AKC. This is because they should be, at least if they're not competing in that particular venue, they should at least know enough about it that they should be able to answer your questions.
Right. But again, I love you guys, but you should know too, right? Read
Right.
the rules before you go to a trial. I mean, I have NQ'd people for calling things that it couldn't be there, right? It's not allowed to be there. And so, I feel awful not passing somebody, but at the same time, we get questions that are absolutely part of the rules, or people making calls, or it's kind of like running an agility trial and then getting upset with the judge because, well, I didn't know my dog needed to hit yellow to pass. And it's like, how did you not know that? That's part of the fundamentals of the sport, right?
Yeah.
But I think nose work's so fun, and we just get caught up in the dog finding odor that sometimes we just want to play with them, for ribbons sometimes, that we don't actually read and know what our part should be. And I think that's really important too, even if it's just a brief skim, just to know
Right.
your level. You don't have to read the whole rule booklet, but know your equipment, your collars, your leashes, and know where your hides are going to be, where they can be placed and where they can't be.
Right. Right. and what's
It'll
the
take pressure off you that the day of trial as well.
yeah, and know what the proper performance, like a climb on a bale. All 4 feet have to be up on that bale, right? Um, so just putting 2 paws up is not going to do it, or one leg hanging up and one leg, and it's not going to work. You have to have all 4 feet on that bale for barn hunt. And you have to have, can you pick up the tube? Can you have uh, the rat wrangler do it? All those kind of things you need to know. So yes, a quick skim of the rules is very, very helpful. And if you don't know, just think about it. That's why volunteering is so helpful, because you can ask a lot of questions, and then reviewing the rules might be a little bit easier for you guys, right? So handler experience, because it's different when you have an experienced handler with a novice dog, or you have a novice handler with a novice dog. It's a different experience altogether. When we have a experienced handler with a novice dog, a lot of handlers feel a lot of pressure to do super well with that baby dog, when I don't know why that is. Why? It's a whole different dog. So why would you expect, just because you did it before doesn't mean this is a new being, a new dog, a new experience, a new journey. So I am not sure why there's that pressure, but it shouldn't be there, because it's not the same. It doesn't count, right?
Well, and for anyone who is an instructor out there, ditch that at the door, right? Because it doesn't. You might have the dog that needs a lot more support than the last dog you had, and everything that you do, that's not great, or that your dog does that's not great. Guess what? It's all learning, and you could take that back to your students. Like, I didn't really work on that with my students, and it was a problem for us. So let's throw it into classes. Don't feel bad. And for me as an instructor, I'm thrilled when my students beat me, because guess what? That just means that things are going really, really well. I'm happy. I hope everybody well, not everybody, but I'm a little competitive, but not too much. So
Yeah, my teams always do better than I am, which is a good thing. I don't mind. So those are all things to kind of keep in mind. So the next thing is, there is nothing that can substitute the time you put in. You cannot expect to be in nose work for 5 months and expect to come out of there with a first place ribbon. I mean, it could happen,
and it does.
And it doesn't. And then people think they can go to nationals by then. It's like, no. Time, you need to put the time in. You need to put the miles on the dog. And especially for those handlers that are new to the sport.
Oh, Alicia, you're hilarious.
What? Running Nuko is like driving a stick. Running Nazar is like riding a stick. Totally different ball game. Yeah, that's true. Oh my God. Oh, Alicia, gotta count on you for the comic relief. But yeah, nothing can substitute putting the time in, putting the going through the trials, doing the training, and going through those experiences. There's nothing that can substitute that. You gotta put your time in. That's plain and simple.
And I'll tell you guys, and I mean, I've been a judge for a while. Nancy's been a CO for a while. You see it happen, right? These teams who are new and they're trying and they kill it at novice and they do pretty good at advanced. And as soon as we get up to where the hides are harder and the skills are more challenging, it's like, oof, you kind of start seeing the wheels come off the wagon. And it's I don't know why people don't expect that, right? If you haven't put in all your hours and your dog's done really, really well, it's gonna fall apart eventually, because back to that foundation piece, you can have good foundations, but the problem solving of parts of that for higher levels isn't there yet. So don't feel bad when you were top of your game at the lower levels, and all of a sudden now we're in medium and higher levels, and it's not going so well. So take that to heart and go back, put some more time and miles on you and your dog.
Right. And that's the other thing, going back to handler experience, you may have a lot of miles on you, but your dog might not, right? And so just because you've been there like 1,000 times doesn't mean your dog has had that same experience. So you have to make sure that you put that time in, put those miles on that dog. Um, hey, Michelle.
And I'm sure everybody running all the sports, right? I mean, you can have that one dog where you're like, oh my God, I've tried 2x2s, I've tried weave-o-matics, I've tried like, why can't you get the weave pulls, right? What is the matter? Every other dog has gotten the weave pulls. What the heck's wrong with you, right? And it's just that dog. You're going to have to try something different. And I think nose work is hard for that, right? Because they pick up the beginnings sometimes quickly, but the problem solving for different skills um is just tough. Like I know Nancy and I both have bird dogs, right? They chase odor. It sucks,
Yeah.
but it's just something that we know we have to work on. You know, I have the crazy Doberman. His arousal problem is going to be with him forever. I hope as he ages and we put more, skill building and self
Miles.
control on him, it gets better.
Yeah.
But those are the things. And as the problems get harder, those behaviors start to resurface again. And that's where you just have to go back, take the stress off and work the skill.
Right. And this is the next thing. Know when to take a break.
Mhm.
When to back off the pedal. And I go, Sue Poor can probably speak to this because Sue, if she's on, I think she's on. I thought I saw her. She did. She she was she got through the lower levels relatively quickly, and at the 3 and the elite level there was some struggling. So we discussed it, and we discussed that she should take a break for a little while from trialing because it was just taking a hit. Her ego was taking a hit, and she, oh hi, so
There
she's
she
there.
is.
Her ego was taking a hit and the dog was taking a hit. So she took off quite a few, I think 6 months, and then we worked on the things that we needed to work on, and Sue and Penny went to trial and did very well. Um, and what I mean very well is she did do well in points, but she also did well. Their teamwork, they looked good, they felt good. That speaks volumes because that was a confidence builder for both the dog and the handler. So now they can go forward and really do well. So know when to take a break. And Sue, God love her, she was very receptive to my suggestion to take a break because some of our students are very, they don't want to because they enjoy trialing. And Sue took a break during the summer, which is when a lot of, there was a lot of trials she missed getting into, but she did. She took the break. She took the work to heart, and it showed when she did finally get in there and trial.
So
So knowing when
just
to
asking just asking for clarity, when you say take a break in this particular scenario, you mean from trials, right? She was still backing off,
trials, yes,
coming to training, really fixing some of the problems and
right, from trials,
okay.
right. Yes, I was taking a break from trialing because, and again, it's about being ready. When do you know you're ready? When your dog is able to do all these things. But if you're going to trial and you're having that much difficulty, there is a point where you have to go, okay, we need to take a minute and we need to take care of this problem instead of perpetuating it. And it can become a much bigger problem. We lost momentum. Yeah, Sue had a lot of surgeries, so they lost a lot of momentum at that time, which affected the trialing and the skills and all those things. So, and that happens. That could happen to anyone. And so, and now they're a pretty strong team these days. Penny's enjoying it. Sue's enjoying it. Sue has become a huge improvement in her handling. It's great. And Penny's liking new Sue that lets her do her stuff. So I mental managed then. Yes. Yeah. So anyway, but that's what I mean. Taking a break from trialing, and that's a lot. That's very difficult for some of us to do that because it's a lot. It's a lot to ask. Um,
It's hard,
Especially if you enjoy it, and that's your social outing, right? It's
right?
difficult, and your whole class is trialing, and you're not, right? It's very hard. So you have to really be the advocate for your dog and for yourself, and do those things. Um, okay. The next thing, the last thing actually we have is how your dog handles everything, not the competition, but everything around that competition. A lot of people forget all the stuff you have to do around that. And in agility, you get to create inside. Can your dog handle being created inside with all those dogs and all that noise? In nose work, you create out of your car. Is your dog happy in the car? Can your dog handle that, being in the car for that long and getting in and out and working? Can your dog handle being in a blind near another dog in barn hunt? Uh, can your so there's so much that goes into the trial experience that you have to make sure your dog can handle those things. And can your dog handle being in a hotel? Can your dog handle? Does he get diarrhea when he travels? Does he stress, get diarrhea when does he eat when he's on the road? Does he potty normally when he's on the road? All of these things that have to be checked into before you that you have to also train when you're thinking of trialing.
Right. And remember, guys, there's so many trials out for most of us. I know some people are a little more remote and it doesn't matter. You have to stay somewhere anytime you want to trial. But you know, the new dog I got, I didn't trial her right away, but she always came along. And I'll tell you, the first couple times, that we hung out, she didn't poop all weekend. She would hold it. I mean, but that's a sign, right? That's a sign of I'm stressed. I don't feel comfortable. I can't do what I normally do. My habits are changing. And although she seemed fine, that was a big sign for me, like, pretty stressful for you. So I really I brought her with quite a few times until I saw that kind of normalized. I didn't really honor her. So even those small things. So I'm sure we all know people too, right? Have you ever traveled with somebody that doesn't like to poop in a hotel room with somebody else, or something's gross, or I don't like to eat things, or I have to wipe everything down, I'm not comfortable. That's all added stress. So you have the choice if you're that person, but your dog doesn't have the choice to get loaded in the car and go somewhere. So just remember that and try and help support them.
Yeah. And then train those things. Christine says, yeah, you took because there was focus issues. Yeah. Taking a break and kind of recognizing there's an issue and doing the right thing for the dog is really hard because, again, a lot of the trials are social time. And it's harder nowadays because of COVID. Our social routines have been very much interrupted over time. So it's during this time, and will continue to be. So it's harder to not trial during, because now we've been able to get a little bit of trialing in and time with our dogs. So it's been nice to be able to do that. But depending on what's going to happen going forward, we might get that taken away again. But hopefully, but that is part of our social aspect and time spent with our friends and things like that. Because for me, the truth is, agility and all the dog sports are I enjoy the social aspect of it a lot. I enjoy the competition, but it's been very, very stressful for me when I go to nosework trials not to be able to socialize and chat with my friends when you have to stay in the car or whatever, which I think it's stressful for all of us. But for those of us that like the social part and not be able to have tailgates and food and all that, which was a really good time. So we have to do the best we can with what we got. Karen, our first nosework trial revealed so many things I need to change from an environment standpoint. Once I figured that out, we both enjoy our trial experience. Yeah, and that's what I mean. And that's what I mean. We kind of just forget about the hotel, the food, the potty, all of those things, because like Joanne said, we are the ones traveling and all that. But the dog you need to, if you're going to ask your dog, and I think I told one of my trainers this, if you're going to ask your dog to compete in a trial setting, you had better give them the skills to do it. It is unfair to ask them to do that without giving them those skills. It's like I would say to Joanne, come on, we're going to go to Spain, and then say, go to the store and get me this, and not helping her out with like, how do I ask for it? What is it? And just, go do it. That's really unfair. And you really
I come back with beer because I know how to. Cerveza, por favor.
And also, like Deb says, one dog likes when the other one's not there. They enjoy that alone time. How do your dogs? And that's the other thing. If you have multiple dogs, are they happy alone, or do you need to bring a whoopee for a friend of theirs or something like that? So those are all things. Like again, if you're going to ask your dog to compete in whatever sport, you better make sure you provide them the skills as much as we can. As Joanne alluded to earlier, you cannot possibly train for every single scenario, but you can at least help them, give them a good foundation to on which to work through and build on, right? So beer might
Mm.
help the handlers that.
It's frowned upon, but you're probably right, Erin. Although with masks, nobody could tell.
Well, if you're running agility, maybe
Maybe.
people, because what
You're,
can go wrong? Beer, dogs, and
or obedience, your nice healing line might be a little weavy. Oh,
and so those are we just wanted to kind of put that out and really think about before you go out there to compete with your dog, and also really assessing where you're at. And even if you're not a serious competitor, do it for the sake of your dog, because your dog is still under that pressure. So even though you don't care if you qualify or whatever, it's still stressful for the dog. So giving the dog the support is really important. And we, like Joanne had alluded to, it's like seeing some of these dogs, and they respond so heavily on what we did. And she brought back a memory. I remember with Bandit, when I would qualify, and I wasn't mad at the dog, I was mad at me. I was so frustrated with myself because I couldn't get there, or I couldn't do what I needed to do. But my dog was thinking I was mad at him. And so I needed to give him good boy Nancy screw up cookies while I figured out what I was going to do so that he would be happy. And it worked very well. This was back maybe a long time ago. Um, and handlers need to be able to handle the trial pressure. Wine. Yeah, I'm a wino, Jill. So, um, but yeah, the trial pressure is really hard. And to Erin's point, that's why I started doing so much of the mental management, because I noticed how I, I got to tell you, majority of our students are really well prepared. They do super well. The dogs are good. The handlers have the skill, but that mental game just gets them every time. And they just, but it's so interesting that nobody really spends a lot of time working on the mental part, which is fascinating to me. Just not
some
sure
of
why.
us do spend time on it and still crash and burn.
Oh, but that's part of figuring it out, right? That's part of just
Yeah.
like anything, just figuring out, okay, what can I do to make it better and get better? And that's why I always say, those of us who do dog sports, it does bring about another part of our personality that we have to kind of work with and get better at. So it's pretty interesting.
We
Dogs
get
and
a lot of drinkers of followers here.
I know. Dogs and alcohol, perfect trial kit. Scary, but yeah, that'll work. So I hope this kind of helps kind of think about some of the things that might be that you might want to think about, or maybe areas that you might want to work on and get better at, or think or work on as you get ready. Because now we have winter break. Uh, we don't have a lot of trials coming up. We're able to work on a lot of those issues, right? Elmo has a hard time, so I started training him Sundays. Would set up a weight and drive up to another search, so we'd submit like 4 hours. Yeah, and that's what I mean. It's like knowing your dog and what to work on is really, really helpful.
Yeah.
So being able to figure out, okay, and I have to say, a lot of the troweling stuff is like, it's like the soccer moms. My kid's great, just that the hides were wrong, or the
That
judge was.
judge doesn't know. She's stupid.
Yeah, he hit the yellow, and he did, because we all are very sensitive about our dogs. So
Yeah, but you
yeah,
know what, guys? Here's the thing, and this is sort of more nosework specific. I don't think the other venues really have too much of this, but AKC and UKC, I'm thrilled that they changed the rules and they started offering those elite or champion, grand champion legs, right? As soon as they did that, my young dog again, has arousal issues. He doesn't have odor issues. He has, I'm so high, I'm going to do zoomies because I can't tell you about odor yet, even though I found it, right? So I really have taken the chance to keep him at these novice levels for the most part, right? I challenge him a little and then we go back to novice, and I challenge him a little and then I go back to novice. But he needs that to build a really strong lifetime career. I don't want him going running willy-nilly and practicing bad behavior. So while I don't think we need a break, we are choosing to stay at lower levels, right? To sort of curtail what could happen if we move along too quickly.
Right. And this is what Karen Schneider said: progress, not perfection.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Amen. Progress, not perfection. And that is the part of the journey that I think we all miss. It's great getting the ribbons. I like them too. I am totally all about it. It's fun, but I really like how my dogs are progressing. I was talking to Melanie this weekend. I got to run Jive, and she got to run her young four, and we were both having, because we're bird dogs, both having chasing odor chasing odor issues, and they both improved so much. They've gotten so much better. So it was like they've progressed from where they were. It's so cool to see how these young guys are kind of like, okay, this was an issue. We were aware of it. We worked it, and now we tested it, and they did so well. And it was really great to see how terrific they did. So it was really fun that's part of the thing. It's like, oh my God, they did really good on that. That was a win for the day. Yeah, whether they did good, qualified, it didn't matter. It's just that they did that better, right?
Yeah, I had the same. I was joking. We actually had a good giggle out of it. I said to Nancy, right? Yesterday, I was just over the moon elated. My dog had made so much progress and he was so successful. And today, I came out of our second detective and I was like, well, we were riding a high and then we got kicked back down the stairs. And she goes, yeah, but that's what it's all about, right? You have this high of look at how much progress you make, and now go home and work on these things that you messed up. And it's so true, right? There's always things to make us better, and there's always skills that we can progress on. So keep focusing on those to get better and better. And
Right.
all the while, I think that's the biggest takeaway here. All the while, ask your dog, right? How do they like it? Are they cool with things? Are they having a good time? Can they handle the stress? You can work on you, but it's you really have to kind of hold their hand sometimes and make sure that they're getting the best out of the sport and the fun that we're getting. So
Right.
continue to ask them that as things get harder.
Right. And Christine was saying they took a step back because, yes, one of the things we learned, Christine, from watching other people is you learn what to do, but you also learn what not to do. Having people getting through courses without having that foundation, and we see it in every sport. We don't, and it's like, because it's like you don't know. We may think we're just doing it for fun, but you don't know where it's going to take you. I mean, when I walked in my first agility class at Windy City, like frickin', God, that was 20 plus years ago. I never dreamed I would be here having my own business. It was not even a thought in my head. And here I am. And that's what I mean. You just don't know. So always going in with an open mind and an open heart is really, really important. Spinner has yes. So go in there, and your dog knows odor. They know what to do. Just trust it and see where they're at. But yeah, it's one of those things. It's like you don't know, and that's why giving them a good foundation is fair for the dog, whether you're never going to compete or not. Giving the dog those great skills it's wonderful for the dog, and they really, again, competition's fun, but progressing and seeing how your dog gets better is just it's what it's all about, really. All right. Does anybody have any questions? It was really these are how the topics come up. We're like, we probably should do a Facebook Live on that, and come up with a different. You guys give us the inspiration to do a lot of that stuff, right?
Yeah, and again, if you guys would like any topics, you'd like to hear us talk about anything, I think the world is slowing down, so we should have a lot more of these come the winter. We should hopefully be able to get back to our regularly scheduled Sunday nights. So, please follow us on our Facebook pages for your canine and for better for worse. And keep up with us and what we're doing. And you can also give us suggestions if there's a topic you'd like to hear about.
Right. All right, guys. Have a great rest of the evening. It was great hanging with you tonight. So we'll see you next time. Thanks.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Bye.